InnoFoodAfrica project, implemented by Organization for Social Science Research in Eastern and Southern Africa, Syria, from Ethiopia, is aimed at enhanced food security, nutrition, and sustainable food systems. As part of the project initiatives, Austria has organized a half-day panel discussion workshop held on September 19, 2023 at Capitol Hotel in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The primary objective of the workshop was to disseminate the findings of the consumption survey that has been carried out under the InnoFoodAfrica project. Furthermore, it was aimed to facilitate knowledge sharing and exchange of best practices to contribute to promoting and enhancing of food security, nutrition, and sustainable food systems. Through engaging presentations, active involvement in group discussions, collaborative brainstorming sessions, and the sharing of knowledge, the workshop sought to collectively craft effective strategies for disseminating the crucial findings of the consumption survey findings. Additionally, the workshop fostered greater collaboration and engagement among participants and stakeholders to make a substantial impact on how communities approach nutrition and make informed food choices. The workshop commenced at 9 a.m. with a warm welcome from Mr. Alemu Tesfaye, Regional Programs Manager at Austria. Mr. Alemu expressed his gratitude to all the participants for their active involvement in the meeting and acknowledged their presence. He set the tone for the session by outlining the purpose of the workshop and establishing expectations from participants. Mr. Alemu expressed his belief that by the end of the workshop, participants would be motivated and inspired to take action in support of sustainable and resilient food security, nutrition, and sustainable food systems, not only in their own communities but also on a global scale. Following his welcome address, Mr. Alemu provided a brief overview of the workshop agenda. With this, he graciously invited Dr. Trufina Mukuna, the Executive Director at Austria, to deliver opening remarks. Following that, Dr. Trufina Mukuna commenced her welcoming remark by expressing her gratitude towards the participants for taking part in workshop. She made a note that the issue of nutrition was one of the most crucial and fundamental aspects of basic needs for human beings. She further highlighted that the InnoFoodAfrica project was one of those research-based projects aimed at generation of evidences in the context of Africa through undertaking assessments on nutrition-related issues in 8 different African countries. She concluded her welcoming remark by extending her gratitude for the participants once again and expressing her hope that workshop would be helpful and able to meet their expectations.
Will share with you. Mine is just to welcome you and declare the workshop open.
After that, Mr. Alemu Tesfaye opened the floor for self-introduction among the participants. Accordingly, each participant has made a brief introductory highlight related to their names, the organizations that they have represented, and their role in their respective organizations. Following that, Mr. Alemu Tesfaye delivered a presentation focusing on overview of InnoFoodAfrica project, highlighting on the project-specific objectives and main outcomes of the project so far along with their exploitation goals. After that, he opened the floor for discussion by inviting the participants to forward any questions and inquiries that they might have. Accordingly, a participant forwarded a question for further clarification regarding on one of the objectives of the project, which was to create a food-based dietary guideline, indicating that Ethiopia has an existing food-based dietary guideline. In response to that, Dr. Kelab Bayi, Associate Professor at Addis Ababa University and lead researcher of the InnoFoodAfrica project, indicated the project, through generating evidences using comparison among countries and taking insights from the consumption surveys, will be focusing on contextualizing attributes and providing implementation support within the existing guidelines.
Just to understand that diet quality is here, that's what we want to achieve. Purchasing power and consumer behavior is important. And this is also a reflection of the food environment, and that we have food price.
Following that, Mr. Alemu Tesfaye invited the next presenter, Dr. Kelab Bayi, to deliver two presentations entitled Dissemination of Findings of the Consumption Survey and Presentation of Communication Messages. Accordingly, Dr. Kelab Bayi began his presentation by expressing his gratitude to the participants for their active engagement in the workshop. And he proceeded to highlight several key points about malnutrition, poor quality diets and diet-related conditions, the links between diet quality and food systems, the general objective of Work Package 2 of this project, the objective of the Food Consumption Survey, diagnostics, solutions, the consumption of mothers and child pairs assessment, energy and nutrient intakes estimation of food group level consumption among children and women for Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, and South Africa, and summarizes all the points.
So we can see for Ethiopia, sugar-sweetened beverages as one example of an unhealthy food. It's very low.
This study, if you just say something about it, the opposite of malnutrition and what it is doing.
Following that, participants began sharing insights and commenced their reflection by expressing their gratitude and appreciation for the insightful presentation. In response to this, Dr. Kelab Bayi expressed his gratitude for the participants and gave an answer for the raised questions accordingly.
Community level programs, national programs. There are some salt reduction activities.
Following the presentation, Mr. Alemu Tesfaye extended his gratitude to Dr. Kelab Bayi for the wonderful presentations and recapped the major points raised on the presentation. With that, he announced that it was time for health break and called for the participants to take refreshments and come back after 30 minutes. After the health break, Mr. Alemu Tesfaye welcomed back the participants and made a remark that the next session was designated for explanation of brochure draft message.
In green, you have the scientific rationale from our InnoFoodAfrica consumption study, but also from other recommendations or other evidences, existing evidence. And then additional benefits or feasibility considerations are in dark blue below.
With that, he opened the floor for Dr. Kelab Bayi. Following this, Dr. Kelab proceeded to making introductory points on the next session of the workshop.
I think you're better positioned to give us feedback on, no, this could be changed in this way. It would be clearer if you do it this way. What do you mean by this? I don't understand the message. Anything is really, this is a work in progress. Okay? So we want to take this opportunity to learn more about what you think about the messages.
He highlighted on the purpose and expected deliverables of the group work session that it was to review the content of the brochure draft message and provide feedback on feasibility and a need for any improvement and generate potential implementation or dissemination approaches.
So cereal is consumed, you need to reduce the proportion of cereal. But within the cereal group, make sure it's whole grain. Make sure if you're eating roots and tubers, make sure it's the nutrient-dense versions, etc. These are options to consider.
After that, based on the introductory points made by Dr. Caleb, participants made a suggestion on the importance of utilization of promotion of dietary messages. Dr. Caleb added on the importance of designing messages which are catchy, help promotion and aspiration, and stays in mind, resulting in higher impact.
Right. So in your recommendation, you haven't included any promotional aspect. So why don't you think the promotional aspect of the nutritional science and aspect, the energy with importance, equal with nutritional values, in connection with the benefit and the point was
Participants posed for a question on the relationship between the recommendation health message of eating rainbow, which meant to make sure plates are colored, with that of potential adverse effect consuming fruits on spiking insulin levels. And another question added for further clarification on the importance of emphasizing on eating whole grain foods.
It is the perspective what I have. Thank you.
We also see, even in this particular project, emphasis on eating whole grains, eating nutritious foods like the orange-fleshed potato and the like. So, what do you say about this?
In response, Dr. Caleb made a note that, even though beyond some threshold fruits might affect insulin metabolism, the consumption level of fruits by the community has not yet reached to that level. Regarding the importance of consuming whole grain food items, he indicated that we get 60 to 80% of energy from cereals, but evidence showed that when 60% of energy came from cereals, the risk of cardiovascular diseases increased significantly. He stressed on the importance of developing relevant and feasible implementation approaches considering all those unhealthy dietary practices.
Point where we'll be confronting, right? So it's to anticipate that, and part of the session is also needed for that. Okay, but they say this, how does this happen? Maybe a note is needed to say that above a certain threshold, fruits may not be required, but we're not at that threshold yet in the current constitution. So that could be one. Second, it's also to emphasize that it's for a generally healthy population. There might be susceptibilities that asks you to limit your sugar intake, be it from fruit or meat, right? So a healthy general population is the consideration here, should also be emphasized. So those are the things that as we implement messages to think further and adapt. So again, that's why it's important to take these as kind of a guiding messages on which you can build and adapt. And within, again, I would reiterate, within the National Food and Dietary Guidelines, there aren't any recommendations that go outside that.
Following this, the moderator, Mr. Alemutesfei, expressed his gratitude once again to the participants and Dr. Caleb for their engaging participation in the discussion, and proceeded to the group work practice by dividing the participants into 3 groups. He also framed expectations to review the relevance of the brochure draft messages and come up with suggestions on what to remove and what to add to the messages.
Group 1 will look into continue breastfeeding beyond the first year and eat a colorful, diversified diet, including as many food groups as possible. Okay? We look into this message. Group 2, we will look into avoid sugar sweetened beverages, including giving tea and coffee to children. And at the back, increase intake of fruits, vegetables, and moderate amounts of animal source foods. That's okay? And group 3, we're looking to avoid foods high in sugar, fat, and salt, and eliminate trans fats. And there's the messages at the back. Okay? So we have these 3 groups. So what you should be doing is, you select a group leader who will be presenting your discussions. Okay, select one person from your group who will be presenting what you have discussed. So go through this message and does it make sense? In our country, for example, does it make sense? What should be added to this message? What should be removed from this message? How can we improve it? So that it can make sense for various stakeholders, including the consumers and also producers and policymakers and so on. Whoever is going to read this message, does it make sense for them? And if it doesn't make sense, just write it down on the piece of paper, on the notebook that's provided for you, and indicates that this message is irrelevant in our context. It should be replaced with this, or we should add this, we should remove this. And later you present that for us for discussion. Let's have 30 minutes, then you present.
After the group work was concluded within the proposed time frame, Mr. Alamo invited representatives from each group to deliver their presentation as per the objective of the assignment. Accordingly, a participant representing the first group delivered the reflections of the group on breastfeeding and colorful diversified diets messages, emphasizing on the core points. The other participants also raised important points on their presentations. Following that, Mr. Alemo thanked the presenter and the group members for their insightful feedback and invited the representative from the second group to deliver the reflections of the group. Then, a participant representing the second group delivered presentation on the brochure draft messages in avoiding sugar and intake of fruits and vegetables, emphasizing on the core points. After that, Mr. Alemo thanked the presenter and the group members for their valuable feedback and invited the representative from the third group to deliver the reflections of the group. Accordingly, a participant representing the third group delivered presentation on nutrient-rich foods and avoidance of fats, stressing on the important mentioned points.
Thank you. This is all.
Following that, Dr. Kelab appreciated the participants for the valuable feedback which was specific for the context of Ethiopia and made a note that the draft messages were developed in a generic manner for the 8 countries of the project. He added on the importance of conducting consumer perspective survey in the future.
I think we've got what we want. The session was designed for this purpose. The messages were generic in the 8 countries. So, and now we want to context adapt it to the local context. That's part of the process. And I think you've identified very well the issues. And I think this is the phase where now, subsequently, we want to make it locally context adapted. But all in all, I want to say we got what we wanted and we are very thankful.
After that, the moderator, Mr. Alemu Tesfaye, expressed his appreciation to all for their involvement in the workshop, announced that the workshop has been adjourned, and made reminder point to the participants that the full publications of the assessments were available on Austria's website. With that, he invited Dr. Trufena to officially close the workshop. Finally, Dr. Trufena Mukuna once again expressed her gratitude for the organizers of the workshop and the participants for the fruitful workshop. She reiterated the importance of the workshop in advancing food security, nutrition, and sustainable food systems, and then announced that the workshop is closed by marking the conclusion of the session.
I'm very grateful again for your active participation. When we got involved in this project, it was a very exciting moment for us at Austria and our partners, because EU has supported us immensely in sharing knowledge, using the available foods that we have, coming up with innovations on them, and sharing knowledge. So there are those various value chains that Dr. Caleb talked about, and the overview of the project is what this project is about, and you're going to learn more as you interact with us, because now you form part of the community of practice that is involved in this. Now, as we move towards a research uptake, we are very grateful to you, because these discussion groups we have had right now, when we adopt, and you will see them as we share to the local communities, we hope that we are going to improve our nutritional value. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with each other and with us, and let us continue that way. With that, I close this workshop and also invite you to have lunch with us. Thank you.